Твою маму мы убили и плясали на могиле. Твою маму мы убили и плясали на могиле.
During the time of Prodrazvyorstka, блять.
Prodrazvyorstka.
During the time of Prodrazvyorstka, one of the regions that was the most greatly affected was the region of Tambov. The Tambov region is a southern Russian region with a population of 1,091,994 as of 2010, with loads of great sights and wonderful people. Tambov is a region in southern Russia surrounded by Lipetsk, Ryazan, Saratov, and Voronezh oblasts.
Commander X.
Right, and has a beehive as its coat of arms. That's pretty much all that goes on in Tambov nowadays. But did you know that there's a whole ass second rebellion in 1920, from 1920 to 1922, when there was Lenin and Trotsky and Antonov Ovsienko and Tukhachevsky and German gas and peasants and Russian peasants with guns and shit, and everything was fucking wild and the Reds and the Whites, man. Well, if you didn't know that, I'm here to explain a wee bit. Now, for all the avid amateur Hearts of Iron historians watching this video, you've definitely heard of the Russian Civil War, but did you know that there was more than two sides to the Russian Civil War, right? It wasn't just the whites. And the reds. There's also the green armies, right? And one of these green armies was the Bonnie Grade Antonov's army, right? Now, who is Antonov? What is this Prodrazvyorstka? Prodrazvyorstka is a very scary Russian word which simply means grain requisitions from peasant households by the Soviet state during the period of war communism. That's a thing, from 1918 to 1921. These grain requisitions were compulsory, although officially policy stated that food deliveries were to come from peasant surpluses of food. You know how communists went about things. And nowhere were the effects of this Prodrazvyorstka felt as bad as the aforementioned Tambov region, which at the time since the 1830s has produced an annual turnover in the Russian Empire of £250,000 of grain. You know, that's each year, which starving Bolshevik revolutionaries, during the time of the Russian Civil War, as it's known to all of you Hearts of Iron gamers, seen as a gold mine of resources. The area that Tambov is in is literally called Chernozem, which means the ground is so black and fertile, it's darker than Eddie Murphy in a bouncer uniform.
Alright, what's going on? You ran a what?
Call anyone a kulak for owning more than one samovar.
No, I'm not a
Kalmissar.
You brought me out here for some kind of freak shit, huh? You wanted to
do a requisition of 50% of my annual turnover of grain.
Punk! No! Jesus. What the hell we doing out here, man? I don't even know your name.
Gregory Checherin.
And commies gonna call me. So they did what they do best.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
The communists sent a decree to every village directly from Petrograd about the immediate requisition of grain. Yeah, but since the peasants couldn't read, they didn't really give a fuck.
Dang nabbit.
Weapons are in the armory.
What in the heck are you doing?
I am fighting for the rights of the working people by taking their resources and feeding the army that's fighting for their rights.
Right now!
Get out of here, Bobby. If those kids could read, they'd be very upset.
But that didn't stop the Bolsheviks from taking all their resources by force. But they were so fucking stupid in their requisition of grain that they couldn't sort out their communication, so they had to leave all their stolen bread left rotting on railway lines, like feckin' ejits. It was doubly bad for the peasants, cause it was a dry season, and the Bolsheviks increased the grain requisitions by 50%. So all the Tambov peasants had to eat was poison ivy, red caps and tree bark. It's June 1920 now, and the first village to fight back against this Bolshevik incursion is the village of Kamenko, and announced its own local council, creating the first partisan army and choosing the full St. George Cross Cavalier Pyotr Takmakov as its leader. Our man. For this, the peasants were lambasted by the 1917 version of the WNL community on Twitch, who in this case were the Bolsheviks, because they, I guess, didn't follow the teachings of Daddy Lenin and Granddaddy Marx hard enough. AKA, they weren't anti-Semitic or homophobic or imperialist or any of that sort. But I decriminalized gay marriage, and no you didn't, Lenin. Shut the fuck up. You're an imperialist twat. Now this is where it gets crazy. So Takmakov from his first rebel army and Boguslavsky's second rebel army, and also with the cavalry partisan units of Don Cossack Diktarov, create the United Partisan. And the rest is history. The boys go off into the forest to fight off against the Red Terror. Now they'll show Avsyenko who's boss. With that said, the peasants kicked off the Tambov Rebellion, so Takmakov, who was the leader of the armed wing of the rebellion, along with the Tambov peasants, handed over the crown of political leadership to Alexander Antonov, who started off as a small-time expropriator, which is someone who robs trains and banks in Moscow, got arrested, released by the Bolsheviks, joined their militia, then returned to Tambov, where his former defense lawyer Ishev and businessman Taranin created a pseudo-Ankov Kirsanov People's Republic, which Antonov, with the help of a non-Bolshevik socialist militia, overthrew his rule and was overthrown by the Bolsheviks, led by this other cunt who also had the surname Antonov, the Avsyenko chap who is the main commissar of the whole ordeal. Which is where it gets crazy. At the height of his power, thanks to their strong popular support, 44 between October 1920 and January 1921, the rebels Boguslavsky mobilized 500 partisans, 45 units. By February 1921, there are between 20,000 and 40,000 strong, with half of them acting as full-time combatants and the other half being part-time. Around 6,000 were mounted, just like your mother last night, hindering government troops whose lack of mobility undermined their effectiveness. But they were never formed an organised guerrilla army, which is a difference, I guess. Because of this, most of their actions were impulsive assaults orchestrated by each band against the Bolshevik detachments in charge of requisitioning grain or repressing villages. This lack of coordination, in addition to the poor weapons and training, ultimately led to the decisive defeat of the Tambov rebels by the Bolsheviks. By this time, the rebels were able to mobilize large field armies. Right. On 11th of April, Antonov gathered 5,000 partisans and launched a pincer attack on Reskazavo. An hour prior, he launched a divisionary attack on Nizhny Spasskaya, which is a small force. The garrison consisted of a company of infantrymen, a unit of Bolshevik militants, a machine gun platoon, Volga infantry brigade, which had arrived in January from Saratov, and the 2nd Cheka regiment, which is weird, and it quickly collapsed The rebels' goal was achieved. An artillery cannon with 200 or 300 rounds, 11 machine guns, 400 rifles, 1,000 ammunition, 80 telephones and 50 versts of cable. On the 24th of April they gathered in the village of Kabaiki. 10,000 fighters under the command of Vasha Karaz, identified as Vasily Nikitin Korolinov and Vasily Selyansky. Not everyone participated in the battle. They intended to take down Kirsanov, the city, garrisoned by a Moscow infantry brigade led by cavalry commander Mitrenko. A day later, they launched 2 equally unsuccessful assaults, abandoning 22 machine guns, small arms, ammunition of their victors pursued by the enemy. Soviets then sent the Tambov rebels, the final boss, to search the Tambov forest for peasant buoy Mikhail Tuchev.
Search continues for a convicted sex offender who cut off his GPS monitoring device in Kenosha County. Lauren Winfrey spoke with people who lived.
Or as he was known, the Red Napoleon, was a Soviet general who operated from 1918 to 1937 as a military officer and theoretician. He was sent to Tambov to suppress the peasants, but Antonov didn't fucking care. But maybe he should have cared, because not only did Mr. Tukhachevsky bring himself and his morning glory to Tambov, he also brought with him a few fresh canisters of German World War I mustard gas. Because if you're gonna put down a peasant uprising, you either go big or you go home. Which he used to gas the peasants into submission, and that's where the tide turned in favour of the Bolsheviks. Tokmakov got so mental one of these days that he started a provisional democratic republic of the Tambov partisan territory, although it didn't last very long, only a few months. But still, it was fucking crazy. Now, is there a happy ending to all this? Well, Tambov rebels were defeated, the Antonov brothers were killed, and everyone else who was found participating in any kind of armed resistance against the Bolshevik forces was found, rounded up into concentration camps, processed, and then shot at a wall. Great! See you in the next video, boys.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Terrores.